friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Wahima and I am a 38-year-old cisgendered female from Southern California. And in today's video, I would like to talk to you guys about my choice to be a single mother and IVF versus IUI as I understand it. I am not a medical professional. I have done some research, but if you have any questions about IVF or IUI, please do your own research. This is just my experience and my version of how my story is going. I've always known that I wanted to be a mother. I don't know if this was something that I consciously made a decision to do or if it's just nature. When I was 25, I had very bad baby fever. Like I was like, oh my God, I have to be a parent. I want to be a mother. I gotta find somebody. But I have always had trouble with finding a partner. I have never had a serious boyfriend. I've never been in a serious relationship. It's always been sort of the Achilles heel to my life story. I have cried about it a lot. It has caused so much disruption and feeling of being unwanted and worthlessness in my life that I can't even explain to you, and that is a whole other video. However, I have always had a strong sense of self, and I've always known like that I'm still worthy of good things despite that, so it hasn't caused any sort of damaging behavior on my end. And so I guess every year since I was 25, I just always thought like, okay, this will be the year. I will find somebody. This will be the year. Then I'll be able to move forward. Also, I have a traumatic childhood. And when I say traumatic, you know, traumatic is objective. So it's not as traumatic, I think, as a lot of people may have had, but for me, it was trauma-inducing enough. And I also wanted to make sure that I was mentally prepared to have kids. I wanted to know myself more before I wanted to bring a life into this world. I mean, in fact, during that time, sometimes like when I was at my lowest point with depression, I was like, why would I bring a child into this world that sucks? Like this world sucks. Why would I bring a child into this world? And so for a while there, I was like, maybe I don't want kids. Like maybe this is a nature thing that is pushing me towards something that I really shouldn't do. Like, should I continue to have this pathology in my family when it comes to woman and pass this down to the next generation and bring in the next generation and have them be equally as sad and depressed as I was and the women before me? And so it took some therapy and it took some time for me to really be self-aware and discover like who I was in order for me to understand that yes, no, having children or at least having a child is something that I want to do. And I posed this question to myself, and it was very simple, is if I reached the age 45 and I didn't have kids, would I regret it? And the answer is yes. I would absolutely regret it, and I would absolutely be sad about it. I've talked about this online in different social medias, and I've had women who are a little older than me who say that they absolutely do regret it, that they were just so driven with their career, or pretty sure they didn't want kids. They weren't in the situation financially to have them and they chose not to. And they got to a point in their late 40s, early 50s where they severely regret the choice to not have at least one child. And so I didn't want to be in that position. I didn't want to be frustrated and angry whenever I saw somebody who was pregnant or mothers complaining or, you know, I didn't want to be that person. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to move forward with this. At the age of 37, there's no prospects on the horizon for me to find a partner. And that is what I really wanted, is someone to help me, someone whose responsibility was equal to mine with the rearing of this child, because I do need time to myself most days in order to recuperate. Even though I know I need that time, I knew that I would severely regret not having children. So I decided that I was going to do it. And I was fiddling around on the internet and I found a group called SMBC, which is Single Mother by Choice. And I started reading some of the message boards. I joined a group, which I don't even look at to this day. I don't look at it at all. And I realized that there was a community of women who made these choices, either because of life circumstances or just because they simply didn't want to have a partner. Some of these women used sperm donors, then they did the IUI route. Some of these women did IVF. It just depended all on their circumstances. I did sit down with my parents, whom I do live in this house with, and I had a conversation with them and told them that I would regret not having children. And so I've decided to have one and asked them if they would help me raise a child. And my dad was like, yep, your baby's my baby. So my dad is on board to assist me with this child. Now, I don't know how on board he's going to be like later on when it's like, you're the full-time nanny, but because I have to go to work, but he's very supportive in this process. And as I talk about my fibroids and what's going on with my reproductive system, as much as it makes him uncomfortable to talk about it, he'll listen to me when I try to have the conversation with him. I also have a sister who is a single mother as well, and she is willing to assist and support in any way that she can as well. So it's been nice to have that, from on the onset kind of support for my family. Having that conversation with my family and my brother and other members has been a little awkward, but I have chosen just to be open and honest because I don't want to have those questions, at the baby shower or at some function later on. There's like, how come you ain't find you a man? So I'm just being open and honest with what's going on up front so that I don't have any awkward questions later and I don't have to cuss nobody out, because people think that because I don't have a kid that I'm young and they try to come at me. You know what I'm saying? As family, the aunties try to come at you and you're like, ma'am, just because I didn't have no kids don't mean I'm not an adult and don't know my own mind. Take care on how you speak to me. I chose not to be embarrassed by it. There's a lot of shame put on women who have children without a male present. There's a lot of shame on women who choose to do IVF. And even if it's not coming from the outside, it could be shame that's coming from the inside. Like, oh my God, I can't have kids. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my reproductive system? I'm just lucky that I'm in a time period where I have these options. Now, these options are stupid expensive. Don't get me wrong, and I'm going to talk in another video about the funding of this and how I'm planning on saving up the money in order to pay for all of this. But at least it's an option there for me, and I'm going to jump into it and try to make the best. Now, did I want to do IVF? Hell no. I felt like I would never forgive this child. Like, this child better come out and be the president of the United States if I'm spending $20K just to even get pregnant. Right? And there's a lot of fear I have with it as well, because I'm older and because my reproductive system isn't like doing jumping jacks and push-ups the way it should be. What if I spend the $20K and get an embryo implanted and I miscarry? What if I miscarry all of them? And then it's like that money is going to be wasted. Now, I've sat down and talked with myself and said, it's not going to be wasted. It's going to be that you tried your best. And maybe the next step is adoption, or maybe the next step is not having kids, but knowing that I put my all and tried, then I wouldn't have any regrets if I'm in my late 40s or early 50s and I don't have children. I will just know that it wasn't the path for me. It's something that I wanted, and Lord knows I'll be sad about it. But at least I will have tried and tried my best. And I think that's all you can ask, right? Is to do your best. I have had 2 people in my life who I've known have done IVF or the IUI process. I also listened to a podcast called Spermcast, and it was recommended to me by one of my friends who went through this process as well. It's been really nice to have that support and know that I can reach out to people who have gone through this. If you have watched my other 2 videos talking about my fibroids, you know that this process for me is not just like, get the money, lickety split, have it happen. That I have had issues, or I'm having issues currently with my uterus and my reproductive system, mainly being that I have 10 fibroids that I'm going to have removed within the next coming weeks. And then it's going to take a full year for my uterus to heal enough to be able to hopefully carry a child. And then on top of that, I have low ABH, which means that my egg production is pretty low. So if I have to wait another year, it's going to be even lower in the next year. So I was talking to a family member of mine, and they suggested that I skip the IUI and I just go straight to the IVF, because while IVF costs more money, it's a higher chance of me actually getting pregnant. So what IUI is basically you purchase the sperm from a sperm bank, or you get it from a friend who is just trying to save you $1,000 a vial. That's a hard conversation. Women who can go and ask their friends, their male friends, for some sperm, like, whew. I asked one male friend and he's like, well, that's a big decision. Let me think about it. And I was just like, what are you going to do with it? Getting the sperm and then either taking the sperm yourself and, injecting it into yourself like a turkey baster, or you can go to the clinic or go to your doctor and have them inject it for you. I think if they do it, it's a little bit more money, right? Everything you're trying to cut corners and save, but you really want to get pregnant. So do you want to cut those corners, or do you just want to save up all the money so that you can throw the money at the process and get the best chance possible? And that's what I want to do. Because an IUI leaves it up to chance. It leaves it up for the sperm to find your egg and do it that way. Sometimes you just don't get pregnant, especially if you're my age. At my most fertile time, there's no guarantee that that sperm is going to find my egg, or that the egg is going to implant itself, you know, or the egg is actually going to flow and drop down into my uterus. Like there is, you know, times where women have had ectopic pregnancies where they get pregnant, but the egg doesn't come out of the fallopian tube. It stays in there, which you have to surgery to get that removed, and it's very dangerous. So it's like there's a lot that can go wrong. Also, my left ovary, the fallopian tube, is blocked somehow. Now, we don't know if it's blocked because of the fibroid. It could be, because I do have fibroids on my left side more so than my right. They don't understand what that blockage is right now, but it looks like my right ovary is the only one that's really working. So for me, doing an IUI would be putting money, I would say like I would say it would be like $2,000 every 2 months to have the sperm make its way and try to have the egg come out and do everything naturally. Whereas if I just skip that and put that $2,000 or that $4,000, depending on how many times I'd actually, you know, try to do an IUI, towards IVF, which can cost anywhere from 16 to 20K, then I would be in the long run saving money, right? I wouldn't be sort of wasting money on the IUI when I can just put it towards the IVF, because I have reproductive issues. Now, if you don't have any reproductive issues and everything is good, then maybe trying IUI first might save you some money. It just depends on your body. You never know. And then you'd have to decide how many months you would like to dedicate to IUI before you jump to the next step of IVF. It depends on you. It could be cheaper in the long run, depending on your reproductive system. Obviously, having a partner is so much easier because the emotional toll this takes you through, you have somebody to share that with, and you also have the sperm at your leisure. So I'm going to have to pay about $1,000 a vial. And I believe each vial is if you're doing IUI, is 2 opportunities. For IVF, I'm not sure how many vials I would have to purchase. I haven't jumped into it that much, just because I would like to talk to my reproductive endocrinologist about that. And I did have a couple conversations with her about it. But once she sent me to my testing to do the HSG and ultrasound, we realized that I had fibroids. So we put a pause on the conversation about IVF until I get this fibroid situation taken out, until I come back to her with like a good, healthy uterus that, you know, is possible for me to carry a child in. That's a lot, right? So that's an IUI. I hope I explained it enough. And if not, do some research and look into it. IVF now is where they take the sperm that you purchased. They also give you Clomid or maybe another type of hormone so you can produce eggs, and they go in and they take your egg out. A couple eggs, right? And then they can do 2 processes with the IVF. They can either just kind of put the sperm and the egg together and let nature do its course in, like, I guess, a petri dish, or they can actually take the sperm, like one sperm, and eject it into one of your eggs and let them fertilize that way. And then you would have what's called embryos. So you would have a fertilized egg that is outside of your body. And once they have a certain amount of fertilized eggs, I'm not sure, I would imagine, let's say the max they can do is 5, or the max they want to do is 5. Maybe they do 10, right? You have 10 fertilized egg from the sperm you purchased and your personal eggs. And then they can put, I think, 1 to 3 embryos in your body, hoping that it takes, hoping that the embryo attaches to your lining, starts to create the placenta, and a baby starts to grow. Sometimes they can put those embryos inside of you and the embryos could split. And so you have twins. So in that case, you'll have identical twins. So there is that chance of that. And that is something that I would want. I don't know if I want 3, but I would want them to put at least 2 embryos in me, because I don't know that I would want to be pregnant multiple times without having someone there to physically help me and like be there and support me. I don't know that I don't know how I'm going to be pregnant, right? I've been in my body as it is without pregnancy. And when you get pregnant, your body changes. And I don't know mentally how that is going to affect me. And I need to be very careful about what all changes happen and how quickly they happen and how I'm taking them in and how I'm managing them, right? Because I want to be the best mom that I can be. You know, I don't want to be mad at this baby because my titties are saggy, or my belly can't do whatever, or I can't bend, or every time I laugh, I pee a little bit, which is a thing I heard. Every time they sneeze or every time they laugh, they just pee on themselves a little bit, and that makes me so sad. But it's a fact of life, right? So yeah, it's just those little changes that I want to be cognizant of so that when they happen, I'm not completely taken by storm and taken off balance, you know? So that is what IVF is for me. That is what I'm believing it to be. So that whole process costs a lot of money. And then you might have some embryos left over, right? And maybe you want to save them for a year or two later. And that can cost money for them to, you know, save the embryos, to house them, right? So there's a lot to think about during this process. For me, I'm just hoping to have one child. But you never know. You just never know how your body's going to react. And one of the things that I worry about the most is going through the process, putting in the embryos and having them be viable and then miscarrying sometime during the 9 months. That is something that would be devastating to me as well. And again, emotionally going through that by myself is going to be hard. There's a couple of downsides that I'm thinking about, but there's also a possible great reward at the end of it. And so that's why I've chosen to do IVF. I've just chosen to bite the bullet and, you know, work my butt off the next year, year and a half and save the money and do what I have to do. And part of that is me creating this channel so that any kind of growth or proceeds that I get from this channel go to that. In the description box down below, I'll always have my Cash App and my Venmo and PayPal or whatever if you would like to donate to this cause. Any little bit would be amazing. This is not something that I normally do. I don't necessarily like to ask, but this is something that's important to me. And I, again, would be remiss or annoyed with myself if I didn't just put all of my ducks out there and ask. And I'm somebody who assists people in the world and online, so I imagine that that karma is going to come back to me. But yeah, so I don't know how you got to this channel, but go on ahead and subscribe and give this video a thumbs up so that other women or people can find my channel. I also have a main channel, which is Just Call Me Wah, and that is where I review reality TV and I talk about social and current events whenever something strikes my fancy. So if you're interested in seeing another side of me, please go on ahead and subscribe to that channel, like, share on any social media platforms that you deem fit. I want to thank you guys for sitting down and listening to me today. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. Again, most of the time I might tell you just to go on ahead and do your own research, but if you have any questions about me and my personal opinion about like what's going on in my life, please go ahead and leave it down below. Let's have a conversation. I want this channel to be an open dialogue, and I want you to have a fantastic week. And always remember just to do your best. Okay, bye.